Hey, welcome to Owning the Goal, a podcast that helps you take charge of your sales success. I'm its creator and your host, Brian McFarland. I look forward to sharing insights and inspiration from my 40 plus year sales career as a seller and a sales leader. Like you, I'm more than just a salesperson, which is why this isn't just a podcast about sales. I'll talk about my other passions too, like books, sports, music, and mental health and fitness, and how they all relate to hitting our goals. Because success in sales is success in life. Now, all this being said, thank you to our listeners for listening. I am so proud and pleased to bring on a guest who I've got eagerly waiting in the wings, who I brought up this podcast or another podcast to probably about 60 days ago. And he actually was interested and remembers things that are unbelievable, but we'll get to that later. And he is on the buying side of our world. So always great to learn from the other side what they're thinking. And he's also got a really interesting background. So without further ado, let me introduce you to my good friend, Abel. And take it away, sir. Tell us a little about yourself and goals and aspirations and how you reach those goals. The floor is yours.
Hey Brian, yeah, thank you for having me. It's honestly a pleasure. Well, yeah, my name is Abel Kassa. I'm originally from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and I was brought up in a business-minded family. My parents actually met on a train to Djibouti in their earlier days as garment traders, and they later started a successful import business together. So you can imagine the values and expectations my siblings and I were brought up on was like passionate and deeply rooted in hard work, entrepreneurship, and the idea that success comes from taking calculated risks and staying resilient through challenges. Uh, if I had to condense it all, I'd say the lesson for me growing up was, driving value and in the process being valuable. And naturally, that kind of uh, aimed me in the way that I am today. I think advertising kind of spoke to me when it comes to driving value. It's kind of like now ingrained in me. I remember on my way back to and back from school, I would always look at billboards and kind of rate them in my head based on whatever, a kid at the time would kind of seem satisfying. And uh, fast forward from there in college, it was kind of easy for me to choose uh, what kind of role and career I wanted to immerse myself in. And post college, I entered the marketing space, and here I am today, like driving value and being valuable.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I have a couple follow-up questions there, and I'm already learning from you because we haven't spent that much time together.
Yeah.
So your parents meeting on a train. What's the story behind how your dad wooed your mom or your mom wooed your dad?
So it's we still are having a hard time narrowing down who spoke to who first. I think they both have different versions of what happened that day, but I believe my mom in the sense that my dad came up to her and saw that she was traveling alone and asked if she doesn't mind saving a spot for him when he comes back, and he'll do the same if if he arrives there earlier, because I think in that time it was kind of first come first serve in terms of seating arrangements. So uh, I think that's how the relationship started off, and then eventually they ended up meeting on the train again and again, and from there a relationship grew.
Wow. And how many siblings do you have?
I am a middle child of three, so I have an older sister. She lives in New York now, actually, and I have a younger brother who stays with me.
And he stays with you. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, all right. So your dad, kudos to him, or at least if we're believing his side of the story, he just went for it,
Yeah.
right? So safe to say his goal was your mom, and his strategy was to just be direct and to ask her
Yeah.
out. So it's no surprise that that's in your genes. And then how did you make, and how old were you, and how did you make the decision that you wanted to to come to the United States?
I think that was an opportunity that addressed itself. My sister first ended up applying for a boarding school in Mississippi. And I think in the process of her applying, we were able to meet the president of the school. And I think right away after me and him met, uh, kind of gravitated to each other. He saw the potential I had. I think I was just a very eager, some might say, I guess head first kid, and I was eager to learn from him. And I think at the time, it was just as a kid in Ethiopia, seeing an American and like being a movie fan myself, I was just like ready to ask him all this stuff, that I've seen in TV. And just, I think we just gravitated to each other, and I think my dad saw that as a sign to maybe send me to the United States to get an education.
Wow. Now, what so proud of you, and that's pretty brave, right? Like leaving where you grew up and
Yeah.
coming. What walk me through that journey a little bit of just what's the mindset of saying, all right, my goal is to move to the United States, and I kind of got your strategy there, but what are the emotions and things that you go through?
Yeah, I think for me it was I was excited to go. So there wasn't really I didn't really feel the expectation of you know going there and making a big splash, coming back. It was just kind of like gradual, one step at a time. I think my parents were pretty smart about managing my expectations and trying to see how well I could do without the pressure of, I left as a freshman in high school, so I think they were smart about keeping it small steps so it wouldn't be overwhelming for me. I think that really helped me achieve success in high school, especially because of the fact that there was really no crazy expectations for me to hit. It was like the sky was the limit, but at the same time, like there was no pressure for me to overachieve.
Wow. So you were what, 15 freshman
Yeah,
year of high
14,
school?
15. Yeah.
14, 15. And what kind of reception did you get from the kids that you met?
Yeah, they were very welcoming, very eager to learn about what Ethiopia is like. I think the first week or two, we all just got along very well, just asking each other what's it like there. Do you guys have this? Do you guys have that? And it was very educational on both sides. And kids being kids, we joke around here and there, but other than that, it was really great. It was a really great experience for me.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I think I know with what I'm growing to know about you, and I will tell our listeners, as I've told you, when we were sitting together, I believe I had spoken to you and spent one, maybe two evenings with you. And see, here we're already getting into how old I am, that I can't remember things like you, because it's going to dive into my next point. And we spoke, relatively briefly. I mean, it was like a social event. But then the last time I saw you, you asked me so many direct questions about things we had discussed. I was so blown away by your memory. And I told you that. And I just knew, like, you've got something special. So help me and the listeners understand, because that's so powerful and it's very unique. How do you have such a good memory and you meet so many people and you're so outgoing? How how can you help me, and how can help you help the listeners like retain such information and then being able to naturally give it back to people?
I think that's something I learned as I was growing up. I think when I first moved to the United States, I was exposed to people from different walks of life. I attended a boarding school, and there were kids from all over the state, and they came from different backgrounds, had different experiences. So it was really fascinating for me to kind of learn what their upbringing was like. So I think as I graduated high school, entered into my college years, that kind of stayed with me. I always looked for interesting people with interesting perspectives on life, and you were like one of them. I think you have such an interesting life, so it was easy for me to kind of hold on to some of the things we talked about and kind of just follow it from there. I think the first thing is be curious and ask questions, and then the second thing is to hold on to the things that resonate with you the most.
All right. My goodness. Well, first off, thank you. I appreciate that you think I have an interesting life. Compared to you, I don't think it's that interesting. But being curious and asking questions. First off, if you ever do want to go into sales, we're all in sales, but like really be in sales, like you will crush it. You will crush it
Thank
with your
you.
memory.
I think my dad would love that. Yeah.
Well, I hope he listens to the episode, and I will give a shout out to your parents because they raised such an incredible young man. I mean, obviously, you got
Thank you.
a tremendous amount of credit for it, but our parents really shaped the way they are. I guess this is a layup sort of a question, but do you miss being with them and seeing them on a regular basis?
Yeah, I think as I was growing up, I kind of the homesickness kind of kicks in, and we talk on the phone pretty regularly, so that helps a lot. But being back home and spending the day-to-days always like start to take more toll on you over the as you get older. But I think we found ways to cope. My siblings and I are really close, and we try to spend as much time as possible together, and that really helps because kind of supplements some of the things that we miss back home.
Okay. And how old is your younger brother?
My younger brother just turned 21 last month.
Okay, and
Yeah.
again, I should know how old are you?
I'm 27. I just turned 27 on the 12th of April, actually.
Oh my gosh, I should have known that, Abel. On the 12th of April. Well,
Yeah,
happy birthday. How did you celebrate your
thank you.
birthday?
We did a lot of brunch, and I probably drank a little bit too much. I think there's a lot to celebrate about this year. So it was just had some family and friends, and we just had a great time.
Oh, well, you open yourself up here. What was it? Why did you have so much to celebrate this year besides you making the planet a better place since your arrival 27 years ago?
I think so. Last year for me was a little bit term of a turmoil. I lost my mother to breast cancer after 15 years of battle, and I think it was a time for me to reflect and slow down and uh, to kind of appreciate her life and how she spent it, and kind of take on more of what she wanted for us growing up. So it was a time for me to kind of reset, figure out what I wanted to do in such a, I think times like these kind of make you question what you're doing, if it's worth it, and how you want to continue on. So from there, I planned on having a more easygoing but satisfying year with like work, having goals there, in life, trying to move away from directly pursuing happiness and joy to like just enjoying the process and indirectly accessing a holistic life.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm compassionate for your and your family's loss.
Thank you.
I'm sure your mother is beaming with pride at the person that you've become and are coming, and you're very early in your life. You mentioned a couple of great points that I want to ask about. So, enjoying and working with the process. So what's when you talk about that, like just in kind of enjoying the process of things and like shifting gears, because we're going to ask you in a little bit about how your goals changed, as you go through life, right? Because it's kind of a fluid approach. So when you say process, like what does process mean to you, and what's your process?
Yeah, I think for me specifically, starting off, I tend to lock into a tunnel vision where I'm just focused on the end goal in whatever I'm trying to achieve, and in the process, kind of lose sight of the present, the now, and like how to uh, be available while still aiming to reach your goals wherever that is. So I think this time around, I'm aiming more so for setting up a goal, setting up strategy for that goal, and just enjoying the day-to-day stuff and trying to find pleasure into that. Because I think that's one of the best ways, at least that I found, to avoid burnouts, to avoid frustrations, or anything related to that.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, that such a wonderful insight into you, and then leads me so kind, making me as a host making this even more wonderful for me. So when you talk about setting goals, and like I said, it's a fluid process.
Mhm.
Share with the listeners what some of the goals have been, and then how you approach that goal, and then when you achieve that goal, then how you kind of move on to the next one and setting that.
Yeah, I think for the longest time, I used to think that setting goals were like the easiest part, and I always used to have challenges on achieving them. And then eventually, I had like a eureka moment when I discovered like SMART goals. I can't really remember when that was, but just it enabled me to slow down, pay attention to what I actually want to achieve, and make sure that it's achievable. Because sometimes I think we can set goals that are a little bit unrealistic to the point where they could be dreams, and those are hard things to kind of work towards. So from there, I think the next best thing for me was making sure that I had a strategy for that. And that's something I think for a lot of people is hard to distinguish between a goal or a plan and a strategy. Like I think some people just end up making a goal, whatever, however vague or specific it might be, and then just kind of like expecting things to work out. From there, I was able to kind of figure out 3 to 5 things that I should be doing on a whether that's a day-to-day basis or a week-to-week basis in order to get a little bit closer to that. And I think in that process, it's important to be a little forgiving because things will never go exactly how you expect them to go. You're bound to miss some things. You're bound to under aim sometimes, and a little bit of compassion to yourself is important in that process.
I love that. All right, so now I'm going to drill down, because I know I'm learning something, so I imagine our listeners are too, although I'm sure they're far more intelligent than I. So give me an example of a goal that you set for yourself as you turn 27, and the 3 to 5 things that you're implementing to achieve that goal.
Gotcha. I think for me, uh, on a personal note, it was being more present. And sometimes I think with the environment that we're in, it can be a very go-go mentality where you just wake up, go to work. Uh, if you're hanging out with friends, you're just, just wasting time or anything like that. I think my goal this year, specifically as I'm turning 27, is to slow down, be present, experience life with others rather than just finding cheap enjoyment. And the strategies I'd probably doing is, join extracurricular activities. I play soccer with my friends more often now that I than I used to. Enjoy one good breakfast. I'm a big breakfast guy, so I'll just make a nice pancake, some eggs, and some sausages, and like have a good breakfast with my brother. Where we watch soccer matches on weekends. I'm a big Manchester United fan, and he's a Manchester City fan. So it's like a good city rivalry between us, and it's just a good opportunity for us to have a little soccer argument, talk about who the best player is at the time, and just kind of be in each other's presence. And so that those are some of the strategies that I'm implementing on my week-to-week basis.
I
And then
love it.
with my dad, I'd probably just, call him more often than I would, talk about his day, talk about my day, just being in the moment.
I love that. What's your favorite kind of pancake to make?
I go with the basic fluffy buttermilk pancakes. I'll throw a little protein powder in there just to give it a little kick. I have like my favorite chocolate fudge protein shakes that I make, so I'll just throw it in there and make it a little bit chocolate
Oh,
pancakes.
I've never thought to put protein powder in my pancakes. That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's a quick and easy way to get some of your protein, you know.
Of course, of course. Well, I love the way again, at an early age in your life, how strategic you are, but also how you're letting it kind of flow, and not chastising yourself for like not reaching something, and maybe you said compassion towards yourself to do that. Now, how did you and your brother wind up on different sides of the fence of Manchester United and Manchester City while you're living
That's a
together?
funny story. Yeah. So when he was a kid, he was actually a Manchester United fan, and I think it was well, his version of the story is he was watching us play his current team, and he just liked their jersey and how they were playing. I think is when you're so young and watching soccer, it just goes off of vibes and how you're feeling about the team. So I think from a young age, he just kind of gravitated towards them, and lucky for him, they actually got better after that because they weren't really synonymous with being one of the best teams in Europe at the time. But it's turned out well for him. So yeah,
It turned out well for him.
yeah,
I can. Do you wear the when they play each other? Do you each wear your jersey when you're watching?
yeah. We do it. It can get heated sometimes, but it's all in good sportsmanship.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that, and of course, anyone who's been listening knows I'm a huge soccer fan, and I've done episodes about soccer. In fact, I did a solo episode last night. You can pick that up on Owning the Goal, about the 5 things I learned from specifically going to play one soccer match. But this is not about me. This is not about you. So this is about you. Sorry.
I am curious though. What team do you support?
Well, someone asked me that yesterday. I got into soccer. Well, thank you for asking. I got into soccer so late in my life that I didn't. I still am getting Premier League soccer, and I don't watch a lot of content. I watch. The only time I watch soccer is to really learn about goaltending. So I more watch and am drawn to the goaltenders on specific teams, right? So like watching Manuel Neuer, is like
Oh,
textbook and learning something. Watching the way Ederson like distributes, from there, like some of the old legends, Gian, the Italian goalie, I forgot his name. I should know that. He's been famous for years.
yeah.
So I don't, and also I will say in sales, it's so here's an interesting sales point. It's liking a specific team can be somewhat dangerous, right? So I was talking to a gentleman yesterday, and it turned out he was a big Liverpool fan, right? So he
Okay.
asked me the exact same question. He said, "Who's your team?" And I said exactly what I just said to you. I said, I don't have enough knowledge about the league to have selected a team. I said, and I'm kind of an late adopter, so I'm going to defer. And he kind of like cringed, and I was like, I'm going to go with an MLS team, Major League Soccer, and it's the New York Red Bulls, because that's who I've seen the most. And I was also trained by a former goalie from the Red Bulls, so I have like somewhat of an allegiance to them. And I know, to anyone who loves the Premier League, they're like, MLS is like, the farm team of, nobody could afford, all the Euros, all the Premier League stars come here when they're in their retirement and
Yeah.
whatnot. So yeah, that's why I don't pick it. But why I say it's a little dangerous is because if I like the opposite team of you, while we might have a good banter about it kind of almost is like politics to a degree, because someone could be so passionate about it, and then they could coin you and say, I don't like that guy, how he likes, my arch rival team. So as a salesperson, I've found, and we're going to get into this a little bit because you've met so many salespeople, is I just choose never to go there, because it's just you go, is the juice worth the squeeze? Like, so is it worth me upsetting somebody, versus if I get it right and we're both like into the same team, it doesn't really work as
That's
it
fair.
goes through.
Yeah.
So I'd love to go from here, because in my intro I talk about the fact that success in sales is success in life. So while you're not a salesperson, quote unquote, yet, even though we're all salesperson people. So mental fitness and physical fitness. You're a very fit person, both mentally and physically.
Thank you.
How do you practice that on both sides, and what's really led to your success there?
I think in terms of physical fitness, I always grew up playing soccer, and I try to go into the gym uh, most days of the week. So that kind of has been a routine for me for a long time. I think it's almost second nature. Not that I'm any athlete or anything like that, but I think I found my rhythm there. In terms of mental fitness, I'd say it's a day-to-day process because like one day you feel like you're on top of the world and you're managing your stress levels pretty easily, and then another time it can be a little bit more challenging than you're used to. So uh, I try to take it as a day-to-day process and try to find good support systems, whether that's with your coworkers, if you have that type of relationship with them, or your close friends and family. And I find that having a good support system to even if it's something that can probably be solved through a conversation, I'd say go for it. But sometimes you just need, to step away and find a distraction. And I think what better way to use your friends and family than that?
Oh, so really in conversations with your social network, if you will. Have you tried doing, do you engage in any meditation or anything like that? Like, you know, for just learning, kind of spiritually, not religiously necessarily, but like through that, or is that an area of development for you?
Yeah, I think I'd say meditation is an area of development. I'll do like a quick 1 minute breathe meditation on my Apple Watch. And I found myself listening to some Headspace videos on YouTube, which are really helpful to me. Uh,
Okay.
but usually I think just sitting back, kind of like focusing on things that have been going on in my life and then just letting them go. I guess it is a form of meditation in a way. Have kind of helped me in that sense.
Okay, that's great. Now the physical fitness aspect. So how old were you when you started playing soccer?
Unofficially, just like scrimmage wise, is like I think since I started walking, but I was part of my high school soccer team. The Tornadoes was our name. Uh, but yeah, I think after college, it just continued to be more so like just social occasions where we just, catch up and play some soccer together.
Okay. Is soccer? I should call it football. Is
Football
that
is what
uh,
I.
is that a big sport in Ethiopia?
Yeah, I think in Ethiopia, it's if I had to rank it, it'd be soccer because that's what people kind of consume on a daily day basis. But once the Olympics start rolling, long distance running is kind of like what we're most famously known for. I'm not sure if you're familiar with these names, but Kananisa Bekele, Haile Gebrselassie are like Deraartu Tulu. These are like some of the more infamous, long distance runners. And if I pull it back a little bit, I'm pretty sure you've heard of a man called Abebe Bikila. He's famously known for running I think it was the Rome Olympics. I could be wrong. Barefooted and actually ended up winning gold. I think he was the guy that kind of made Ethiopia synonymous with long distance running.
Wow, wow. Well, I know in the New York City Marathon, and I don't. I've only ran one marathon. It was in Richmond, Virginia, but the New York City one obviously is a really big deal. And I always see that the Ethiopians are generally, three of the top five, and they
Yeah.
just they just can't be beat. They look like they could just run forever. So
Yeah, Ethiopia has a unfair advantage being so high up. I think to this like it's a very high altitude country. I think 70-ish% of the mountains in Africa are located in Ethiopia. So very high altitude, low concentration of oxygen. So if you're training up there, it's like cakewalk, when you come to Olympics competitions.
okay, okay. So now let's shift to what is each of our biggest passions of soccer. How did you, I'm imagining you're quite good. You're also very humble, so you're probably gonna say you're not, not really as great as you are. I don't think I could play on a pitch with the level of people that you play with. But how did you set goals in soccer, and what was when you started playing, and then you came over here? What were really the kind of the goals that you remember when you went out for soccer teams?
I think soccer for me, it was just embedded in me since I was such a young a child, pretty much. So at that time, you're not really thinking goals or anything. It's just becomes a part of you, part of my social upbringing. So in terms of soccer, just taking it day by day, playing with some of the people that you consider close friends, which I was fortunate enough to play with. And obviously especially in high school, the aim was to win championships and all that stuff. But I think it's sometimes good to just, be in the moment, enjoy each game, and yeah, I try to be part of a team. I know sometimes with soccer, there are players that are very, star player potential. They just want to play on their own and kind of go on their own path. But I think I gravitated to more of a team role where I noticed that my contributions is more important than what I can do individually.
Oh, okay, okay. And what is your favorite position?
My favorite position is midfielder. That's what I kind of grew up playing as a kid, but I think I grew into more of a right back position where it allows me to kind of push up forward if I needed to, to support in a counter attack position, but kind of sitting back and watching the game unfold and being part of that defensive line, I grew up to enjoy a lot more.
Oh, that's awesome. And you just told me as we were getting on, you played yesterday or this morning. Well, did you play this
I
morning?
played this morning. Yeah, I played
You
this
played this
morning.
morning. And how'd you do
It's
yourself
pretty good.
personally?
I think I did pretty fairly. It's a new group of kids that I'm playing with, so we're all just getting to know each other and how we play and building chemistry there. But I think I think it's a start to a good relationship.
Oh, that's cool. And do you? I know you're kind of doing it half for fun and half for fitness and mental fitness. Do you focus on any sort of specific training because you're also spending a lot of time in the gym that is applicable to soccer itself and or getting out on the pitch by yourself and doing some of the drills or whatnot?
Yeah, I'm a morning person, so I'll wake up at like around 5:30 and try to get out the gym by like 7 or 8. And I try to lift weights 6 times a week. I know that might be overkill sometimes, but I find it a little bit more relaxing than just staying in bed. Although I do enjoy staying in bed every now and again. But yeah, I think lifting weights is my primary goal in the gym, and I'll do a little hit workout here and there for some cardio, and then play some soccer in the weekends.
I love it. I love it. No, and it's
Thank you.
as long as you break it up, you can lift every day,
Yeah,
and just not hit the same muscle group. So you're good there.
yeah.
I love that.
It's exciting when you build relationships at the gym as well. I'll have like some people that I've probably not spoken to a lot, but we just nod at each other and just ask each other how our days are going or spot each other if we need it. And it's kind of like a silent relationship that we have going on because everyone has their headphones in, but you kind of just give us some eye contact and like do some nonverbals and build a relationship in that sense as well.
Yeah, and that seems to, as I've learned, I only started playing 11 years ago. I've found that, and I said this in another episode that I did, that when I was playing during COVID, because it was a sport you could play, and some people had masks and some didn't. But I do remember, and I always think this now. These are more like intramural, sort of stuff. So not high stakes. But I remember looking out on the pitch and saying, a soccer field, this beautiful game,
Yeah.
is so representative of the way life should be, right? Where it's like every creed, color, religion, and everything, it doesn't matter, right? That's so prevalent in a sport like that because everybody just comes together. And I always reflect on, I'm like, why isn't the world like this, right? Like everybody gets, yeah, it's competitive and people, bang around, but
Yeah.
on the soccer field, everybody's the same. and it just seems so simple, that I wished everybody had that experience, because they would just like drop any tensions they have, towards any other groups, because it just doesn't matter, and so have you found that, as you came to the States, in the groups that you played with?
Yeah, I think I've played with pretty much people from all over the continent, minus Australia. I've yet to play with somebody from Australia. But yeah, I found it that I think at that point, all that matters is just chemistry, whether that's like passing the ball to each other, understanding, when to push forward and when to pull back. Um, and at the end of the game, you kind of built this trust and camaraderie for one another, that it kind of, you surpass some like, icebreaker conversations or anything like that. You go straight into some of the more like bonding questions or conversations based on just how you spent your time on the field. No words would have probably been spoken between you guys, when you're playing, and sometimes there could be frustration when somebody doesn't pass you the ball or makes a mistake on the pitch. But I think at the end of the day, you can kind of just like shake hands about it, and it'll kind of build a solid bond between you and the other person.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find so. You as a right back, I played yesterday, which was Friday, and one of the things I've learned is my game, the game I'm playing in, my success or failure, if you will, is in large part due to who is right in front of me. So my
Yeah.
back line. So when I see the team that is assembled, and we're usually playing four in the back, I prefer four. Everyone's like, "Oh, do you want three or four?" I'm like, "Of course I want four."
Four is always
It,
better. Yeah.
four is, well, at least for me as the goaltender. But my defensive players, they're everything to me, right? Because if you're not marking your man, happened a couple times, like people knocked headers in. My right back and my left back was not guarding their player. So, what's your general relation with goalkeepers? That you've had in your life, if you are playing, defense.
Yeah, I think defenders and goalkeepers have a very important role that most people kind of overlook. I think when goalkeepers make mistakes or a goal is conceded, most people tend to blame goalkeepers because they didn't get the ball or anything like that. But indirectly, the relationship between the goalkeeper and the defender is way more important than people kind of probably perceive. I think goalkeepers need to conduct their front line. They're essentially the last defense before they're the last defense. So I think having a good relationship with your goalkeeper is really important. Being able to see what he's seeing and like being able to be malleable to what he needs is important.
Yeah, and communication.
Oh yeah,
Right,
exactly.
right. It's like it's the goalkeeper's response. You talked about earlier, which I love. You, the goalkeeper gets to see the whole movie, right? You
Yeah,
get to see most of the movie, and we both understand how the game is ebbing and flowing, as a movie over the course of the 90 minutes. But the communication level between the goalkeepers saying, "Hey, Abel, you know, coming around the right side, or behind you, if I don't do that or the goalkeeper doesn't do that, I can't expect you to make the play if you don't know somebody's behind you."
exactly.
But
Yeah.
but then not never assessing blame. I see a lot of people on pitches like start yelling, at the other players if a goal's conceded or whatnot, and it's like, what do you think that's going to do? Like, it's not going to be a positive outcome.
Yeah.
So anyway, I hope we do get to play sometime.
Yeah,
I'll
me
I'll,
too.
try, I'll I'll try and hold my own with you. I want to shift gears as we're winding down here, because and I held this topic out for last, and listeners, thank you for staying on. So you and I met in a sales slash, I am the seller, you are the buyer, planner in the media business. And so I truly value, and I think because we're all sellers, but especially salespeople listening to this podcast, the best sellers, in my opinion, are the ones who understand the buyers, and not just in a sort of selling buying relationship, in a true relationship. So with all the people that have come across your transom on the sales side, um, tell me some of the things that have stood out to you, from that aspect.
I think for me, the product making sense aside, I think the most important thing between a relationship between a buyer and a seller is trust. Like if I can trust you to deliver the product or make sure that we're achieving the goals that we both want to see, I think that could make our relationship a lot more smoother. Uh, Mistakes will happen in life or in work, and I think how each party is able to respond to those, how each party is able to dance to the music is important for me. And if that relationship is not there, I think it's very hard for sellers to approach buyers and buyers to accept a seller.
Okay. Okay. Walking that back a little bit, because I know I can speak from my own experience, but I know all sellers out there. Um, on average, how many emails would you say, inbound emails, do you get from sellers a day?
I think one too many. It's I probably lose count on a day-to-day basis. Luckily for me in my role, I don't have to be responding to a lot of these emails. But it's important to look out in terms of understanding what's new in the market, what edge you can offer to your clients. And for those reasons, I'm always looking out for them. If I see something more interesting, I probably forward it to the right people, and see what we can do about it.
Okay. Okay. Allow me to drill down, because I think this is really helpful to the listener, especially as a seller. What is it about a blind email that comes in from a seller, potentially for a product or company you've never heard about, that makes you actually open it and engage?
I think it always boils down to value. Uh, at the end of the day, if you can give me the competitive advantage that will make sure that I'm delivering the best that my client deserves, I'll always, it'll resonate to me more than any other cold email. I think sometimes sales can be a little cardboard cutout, and you're sending mass emails because you're reaching out to as many people as possible. So, being intentional in what the buyer needs specifically, and trying to highlight how you can deliver value to that, I think is the most important thing.
Okay. Okay. I'm drilling down here even further, because I'm trying to always bring value to our listeners. So
Yeah.
what's the most creative, right? So you go out. I've heard this like before. One of your colleagues told me, if he goes out to lunch, he comes back in an hour, and now again, he's in a different position than you, but he has 50 to 75 emails in his box, mostly from sellers.
Yeah.
So let's say you get 20, a day. Let's just make it a round number in your box. What, if you do have, what was a memorable subject line that caught your attention, that got you to even open it?
I can't remember the subject, but I believe it was on the LinkedIn message board. I was DM'd by a salesperson, and it says play me and send me a video, and pretty much was like he was holding out a sign saying my name and saying pretty much how eager he is to provide value in a specific product that they were offering. And it was, I think it made me stop and laugh, firstly because I've never seen a sales tactic like this before. Usually you'll do a Zoom call or anything like that, but I think being like a cold approach, like a cold call with a video, I think I've never seen before, and it was very entertaining to watch. And I think we reached out to that person. um I don't believe we ended up working with them, but I think it was such a good effort. I had to give it up to him.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
This is really striking home. So wait. So they pinged you on LinkedIn with a message. They didn't
Yeah.
actually write to your direct work email and said play me. So you got a LinkedIn notification that Jane Smith or John Smith in this case had reached out to you, and you open that and it says play me, and you get a video. That was the first time that ever happened. Has that happened since with
It
a
hasn't
video?
happened since. I think it was like a one-off thing, but I don't know whoever thought about it. Maybe, they should probably make it a standard. It probably is easier than reading, a bunch of emails or anything like that. But then again, you don't want to be scrolling through your LinkedIn with multiple videos.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, so so go with me here. This is so helpful. So I would say I've been doing this for coming up on 40 years. And, I was in this business before the internet existed, believe it or not. Before cell phones existed, so people had landlines. People were actually in their offices, so I had another tool to actually write them a handwritten card. So then the internet comes out. Early on, I had a response rate probably of 25, 30% in the early days of the internet. And I will unfortunately say, even though I make my quotas, so if anyone from my company is listening, you'll know how hard I work. I have a response rate that is now lower than 5% of every email I sent. And I am maniacal in trying to figure out this exact what is the magic secret sauce to do this. So to your point exactly, I tried for a week, and I love making video and creating content. Otherwise, thus we're here. I made videos and I got one weird response. Only one. I probably made like 10. And they said, while that was unique, I'm still not going to write you back. And so I did get a response. And I guess they did write me back. So that was like hypocritical. But they didn't buy
Yeah.
from me. Everyone in my office thought I had, and I'm the oldest person in my company, everyone in my office thought I had two heads when I brought up in a sales meeting that I started sending people videos. But it worked for you. So, but you're also a very special and unique person. So that's, I think I'm going to go back to that next week and start making people videos. Because as we say in
Yeah.
sales, you can't fall off the floor, right?
Yeah,
If you're
exactly.
not getting engagement. All right, all right? So that was the best one. What was the okay? So now let's say somebody gets in the door and they have to go through like the straight media people to get to you. What would you say? And we always like to keep this fun, but what was kind of the most surprising one where you went, "Wow, how is that person a salesperson?" Because you were just kind of not impressed with their behavior. Let's just say.
I think I usually have that thought process if uh, especially during like presentations where they're kind of walking us through their offerings and their products, if you tend to kind of, I had this one person kind of like skim over some of the important details, and it was hard to kind of get a straight answer from them. And it's not as the fact as if like I'm not impressed or anything like that. It's just it makes it harder for me to make a decision to see if it's worth investing, because at the end of the day, we are, our core goal is to deliver value to our clients. So if I'm not able to do that, or if I don't believe I'm able to do that with the information that I have, kind of makes me kind of knock you down a little bit.
Okay. Okay. That's really helpful. That's really helpful. So customization, understanding what your needs are, save things to say.
Mhm.
As far as, because I've been blessed, thankfully, to be out with you on an entertainment basis. What does being entertained by somebody, generally, hopefully that you like, what does that, other than the basics, you're getting to know them, like, what's, I guess, your thought and what's some of your colleagues' thoughts about how important that is or not to the partnership building process?
Yeah, I think sharing experiences in those moments are important. I think personally for me, I prefer getting to know somebody based on, their experiences, the experiences we, share together. So if we're going out to get a drink or maybe go watch a game or anything like that, those kind of help build bonds that I can later down the line kind of use to whether that's buying more products or whether that's like kind of troubleshooting situations. I think building good rapport is important for me, and that's like one of the things I look forward to when I'm when I'm being entertained. I think of it as kind of more so than just like late getting what's called good treatment or anything like that. It's more so just like getting to know people, understanding where they're coming from, try to resonate to that, and building relationships. That's what I really enjoy most of all.
Yeah. You and me both. I started in the agency business, and I was not, you know, typically agencies are not. It's it's not like the finance business, right? You're not making a ton of
Yeah.
money. You didn't get into it for financial reasons, typically, right? You got into it because you were passionate about it. So I
Yeah.
always looked at it as, thank goodness, right? I would have never went to a hockey game, especially with what they cost now, if it was on my own
Yeah.
dime. So I looked at it as, when I was on the receiving end, I was like, oh my God, I saw the Rangers win the Stanley Cup. I saw Broadway plays. I went to baseball games. I did this. I did that. And I could not have afforded that. But now, even as a seller, I look at it as such. I'm so passionate about it because, like, when I got the opportunity to take you out several times, I wouldn't have spent that of my own money at a restaurant, to do those things. But when we go out, especially because we're doing business together, that's it's very special to me, and it's very special to you because you're choosing to spend your time with me, and you don't have to do that. So I treat it really, really respectfully, and I've been so thankful that you've been so engaging in doing that. And then you took the other step when, in our last meeting, where I just casually mentioned that I had a podcast, and you dove on that, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. And you kind of consume a lot of podcasts, so we had a really engaging discussion about that. And then you were kind enough to actually listen to them. And one in particular, the one that resonated with you the most. Tell me a little bit about that one.
Yeah, I think I resonate with a lot of people that come from different backgrounds in terms of like immigrating to the United States. For me specifically, um, talking about some of the culture shocks that people have gotten to experience when moving here is something that I like to discuss. A lot of the times people might expect major culture shocks to be in terms of it's hard to explain honestly, but I usually it's hard to explain because usually like culture shocks kind of like there's this innate understanding that things are a little bit different, but don't expect them to be. In a lot of senses, growing up in Addis Ababa has been similar to what it's like living in the United States, as in like big city lifestyle and kind of just like a fast-paced environment. But then again, there are some other things that are different. Like here, I think individualism has been something that's been a little bit hard for me to kind of adjust to because a village raises one person in Ethiopia, and like there's this big community of people that you share lunch with, you go out to drink coffee with, or even just spend the rest of the time of your time in the day. So I think just experiencing what others people's culture shocks are and trying to see that if it's similar to what yours are is one big thing for me.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. And that resonates. I'm going to make one final point, and then bring it up to you, just because it's so relevant to what you just said. So my girlfriend and I, we were coming back from the park the other day, and we live on the Upper West Side, and we were walking down this block. There's a very like old area, so like pre-war buildings, and we were one of the reasons we're together is we're generally thinking of the same thing. And I mentioned to her, I said, what's kind of sad is there's all these balconies on these buildings, right? And in the city, it's very rare that people are ever out on their balconies.
Yeah.
Very rare. And I said, what you just said is a village raises, right? A village raises a person, if I get that right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So it's been well documented that the death of the neighborhoods in the U.S. was actually the minute television came out. Because I read this is not my own opinion.
Yeah.
Everybody, right, before you had TV, everybody sat outside and your entertainment was your community, your neighborhood. People watched each other's kids, right? This is probably how you grew up, right? I mean, I know they have television, but it's much
Yeah.
more of a community based. So we were walking, and I was like, what a shame. People, I'm like looking at a whole bunch of terraces right now, and it's warm here in New York City. I would be outside. There's nobody out there. It's just people don't do it. And her and
Yeah.
I both said the same thing, and we went, I would wish that I could time travel back like 100 years backwards from now and be able to look at what this block would have been. And you nailed it where you were just like a community raises a person. I love that thought because we went, I bet you it's a beautiful night. Everyone would have been out. Children would have been playing in the street, kicking probably a soccer ball around, and
Yeah.
other families helping each other, people bringing out food, sharing what they had. And, it's kind of a sad state. I'm very idealistic, right, of where our country and world has gone, and that we're all like staying inside and watching Netflix and not interacting with other people. And what you just said like before about mental health, you get a lot of your mental health from just engaging with other people. That's kind of unique. Other people are like watching YouTube videos about meditation and doing all these other things. So again, you're ahead of your time. So I appreciate
Thank you.
that. But we're in the same mindset. So as we wind down to the finish here, we always love on our episodes we want to give value to the listeners, and that they've remained on our time here for coming up on an hour. You've offered so many great tips and ideas and advice and wisdom, but if you really had to drill down to sort of one thing, one area that you would leave the listeners with that would be helpful to them in all your life's experiences to help them achieve their goals, what would it really be?
I'd say stay curious no matter where you are in your journey. The people who keep asking questions, stay open to learning, and aren't afraid to like adjust their path are the ones who end up finding real success and enjoying it along the way. I think the most important thing someone can do is be present and allow, I guess, to bringing it back to our love for soccer. Life is like a game of soccer. There will be unsuccessful passes, miscommunication, but then there will also be like successful passes and exciting experiences and feelings when things do work out your way. So just be, adaptable.
I love that. I love that. How are you just 27 years old? I don't know. I don't know. It's amazing. Well,
Thank you.
thank you so much, Abel, for spending your time on this Saturday afternoon with us. I have learned so much. I've got 2 pages of notes on the items here. Expect to potentially get a video sales request from me on Monday.
I'll
As
be
well,
happy to.
your whole agency might get one, and they'll be like, "Where's this from?" And don't tell them that you told me that. But I've learned a lot. I hope our listeners learned a lot. The world is truly a better place because you are here, and
Thank you.
I don't say that to everyone I meet. And I think you've shared so much, and we really really appreciate it. So
Uh,
thank you so much for the time.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. This was a great conversation, honestly. I enjoyed this a lot more than I initially thought I would enjoy it. So it was really great.
Great. I'm so thankful for that. So as we get out here, so again, this has been another fabulous episode. Our listeners will be the judge of that, but I know it has been of Owning the Goal, where we're all about sharing wisdoms and insights because we're all sellers and trying to achieve our goals. And if we can even help one person with one little tidbit, then this will all have been worth it. That's really the goal of the show. If you have the desire to be a guest, we're always looking for guests, so you can reach out to me on Only in the Goal. I'll have the website actually up this week, but you can send me a DM through, this will be up, we'll have this up on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Connect, so you can reach out to me there, and we would love to have you on the show. So thanks so much. Abel, thank you so much. Thanks to our listeners for making it, a full hour of content, which we just enjoy. And get ready to tune in for our next episode. Have a great rest of your day.